This was Checo Perez.
Formula One, it's Perez in the Principality. He wins the Monaco Grand Prix.
And this is Liam Lawson.
Norris, se quedó Lawson, ahí se pegó Lawson, se pegó Lawson.
Y ahora puede car.
Y bueno, y ahora puede haber un safety.
This was Checo Perez.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Sergio Perez.
And this is still Liam.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah, that was a bit of a slog today. But we'll
Dude, it lasted one lap.
So what was Checo like before joining Red Bull?
Checo Pérez. ¿Y cómo le responde el dueño de la escudería? Así lo hace. Bravo, 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 Checo. Y gracias por tus palabras. Muy contento y orgulloso. El dueño de Force.
And what was Lawson doing before Red Bull?
Going wheel to wheel off the track goes Colapinto.
Right now, many feel like time is proving Checo right, while his former critics have gone silent. Liam Lawson's performance is already being labelled as the worst for a Verstappen teammate since 2016, the year Mad Max arrived at the senior team. It's leaving Red Bull looking like absolute clowns, total pretenders, reinforcing the harsh label former F1 engineer and Spanish pundit Tony Cucurella gave them, a driver-burning factory. Lawson's poor showings are exposing more than just Red Bull's internal toxicity or their technical stagnation since Newey's departure. It's highlighting the ruthless, two-headed leadership at the team, where ending a driver's career seems like just another day in the office. The Horner-Marko duo now stands in total embarrassment, and Lawson is just the latest in the firing line. Remember, a fish dies by its mouth. So, is Checo coming back to Red Bull? Is Yuki about to take Lawson's seat? Actually, he already has. Alright, let's get serious. This video breaks down the stats, the facts, and the full-scale collapse of Liam Lawson, plus what Red Bull's options really are with Checo Perez. Let's dive in. Checo Perez's arrival at Red Bull came during a moment of crisis, not just for Checo, but also for Red Bull. They had already exhausted the entire pool of drivers they had somewhat developed in their junior team, Toro Rosso / Alpha Tauri. Sudden mid-season driver swaps had become a trend, driven by the whims of Dr. Helmut Marko, who decided who was going up or down. After dropping Daniil Kvyat to make way for Max Verstappen just 4 races into the season, despite the Russian having already scored a podium.
I have to ask you, when you see Max Verstappen having won a Grand Prix in a car that was yours, do you think that could have been you, or can you not allow yourself to think like that?
Yeah, I can. Of course I can.
So that would have been you?
We never know if and what, no, but I know my potential and I know that I can win not only races, I can win championships, and it looks like my way to that is a bit more rocky, and I just have to be patient, and yeah, I need a miracle in a way this year.
Red Bull later wore out Daniel Ricciardo to the point of departure. Ricciardo went from finishing 3rd in the standings in 2016, the year Max joined Red Bull, to 6th in 2018, the year he left.
But he's going to try and dive down. The inside, they have crashed.
It's a pretty crappy situation. So yeah, I guess myself and Max just need to apologise to them for how it ended. We were battling. I mean, we want to race, and we are thankful that the team let us race. This is the worst scenario, so that's the crappy part of it, that it's come to that. But yeah, we'd obviously battled all race. We touched maybe once or twice already, but yeah, it's just. Yeah, not nice from a team's point of view. And
was there a double movement? Did Max cause it by moving again in defence?
It was a racing accident between the two. There's not more fault on one or the other side.
Could you have done anything on the pit wall to separate them during the race? Was there anything you could have done?
That's against our philosophy. We always let the drivers race. We don't have a number 1, we don't have a number 2, but we expect responsibilities from the driver's side.
Just finally, have they sorted it out? Have they spoken to each other?
We had, yes.
In the following season, they brought in Frenchman Pierre Gasly to replace the Australian, but Marko gave him only 12 races in 2019.
It wasn't only Alex who had a poor time in the Red Bull, obviously Pierre as well. From what I understand, the way Pierre kind of conducted himself when he was at Red Bull probably wasn't the best.
Pierre's problem was he started to doubt himself, I think, in his own head. And then, like we're seeing now with Ricciardo, once you start doing that, you just sort of come on a downward spiral. And then there was one point where, again, I wasn't there, so I can't confirm or deny it, but apparently Pierre got quite vocal with Adrian over the setup of the car, and it sort of became a bit of a shouting match in the garage. And then once that happened, in front of Marco and that, it was back to the sister team you go.
Before replacing him with Thai British driver Alexander Albon. Albon lasted just a season and a half before he too was dropped. At that point, Red Bull had no more junior drivers who even remotely fit the team's expectations. That's when Christian Horner looked outside the academy, breaking the pattern established since 2014, when Red Bull had only promoted in-house talent. Checo's signing disrupted that system, something Helmut Marko clearly resented. It was a blow to the Red Bull Driver Academy, which Marko oversees, as it signalled they had failed to produce viable talent. But in truth, it showed they had been burning through young drivers due to Marko's impatience. Checo joined Red Bull in 2021 with 10 full seasons under his belt, having driven for midfield teams and consistently delivered results above expectations, setting milestones in every team he had driven for. He arrived at Red Bull with a calm, cooperative mindset that quickly disarmed Marko's doubts. In his very first race with the Austrian team, the 2021 Bahrain Grand Prix, despite a technical failure on the formation lap.
Checo, can you restart? Radio check. Radio check.
Which forced him to start from the pit lane, he delivered a stunning comeback to finish fifth. It was a clear display of what he could do with a competitive car, something that would become a trademark for Checo at Red Bull. In just his second race, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, he qualified second. Though he dropped 2 positions to let Max battle Hamilton at the front, Checo held on to fourth for most of the race. He had to deal with rain, a harsh 10-second penalty, and a mistake that ultimately dropped him to P11. But his track record spoke volumes. 193 Grand Prix starts at that point, compared to Lawson's 11. Even so, Lawson made several statements minimising Checo's challenges. He claimed he didn't believe in driving styles, downplaying the difficulties Perez reported with the Red Bull cars. He also said it was frustrating to see drivers who don't deliver, clearly aiming at Perez again. And after some aggressive, penalty-free outings with Racing Bulls, Lawson declared, "I didn't come here to make friends, I came to win," attempting to intimidate the Dutch Lion himself. To wrap things up, Liam made a bold claim that he was so good he could drive any car you gave him. That level of confidence and arrogance was how he presented himself to the media, aiming to climb up Red Bull's internal ladder. But this raises the question, if he's that good, why do so many think he's not? First, let's be clear. Every Formula One driver is already an exceptional human being. We're talking about a group of just 20 elite athletes chosen from thousands of drivers around the world. But even within this elite group, there are levels, and Liam Lawson is not a bad driver. He proved that when he stepped in for Daniel Ricciardo at AlphaTauri after Ricciardo fractured his wrist. Lawson slightly improved the Australian's numbers, enough to be seriously considered as Ricciardo's full-time replacement for the final 6 races of the 2024 season. His performances were solid. He even matched Tsunoda at times, which marked a turning point for Liam. He knew he had to prove his confidence and aggression, not just to earn a seat for next season with one of Red Bull's 2 teams, but to market himself as the rising star. That's when he started racing with a clear target, Sergio Perez. In just his second Grand Prix in Mexico, Lawson found himself on track with Checo.
But I don't think it's his fault, because he doesn't get any penalty. He did the same to Fernando last weekend. He did the same to Franco at the end of the race.
After a strange incident that went unpenalised, Liam disrupted Checo's aerodynamics, costing the Mexican several positions in dramatic fashion. And just to make things worse, when they crossed paths again later in the race, Lawson made sure to send a message. They wouldn't meet again on track for a while, but in the penultimate race of the season in Qatar, Liam was still focused on Perez. At that point, it was starting to look ridiculous. Perez was clearly his target, but Lawson's reckless aggression wasn't limited to the Mexican. From his very first race, the United States Grand Prix, several drivers were already dealing with his borderline moves, right at the edge of the rulebook. He even managed to get under El Nano's skin, so much that Alonso messed up the name of Lawson's team on the radio.
Man, AlphaTauri is such an idiot.
And once again, suspiciously, there were no penalties for Liam. After the race, Alonso spoke out again.
Sí, de acción, seguramente demasiada, pero Liam tiene 6 carreras para demostrar mucho y seguramente no es el mejor approach el que está haciendo, pero bueno, es su carrera la que está en juego, no la mía.
That was the same weekend as his infamous clash with Checo in Mexico, where Lawson also had contact with Argentine rookie Franco Colapinto. But guess what? Only Colapinto was penalised. Lawson's wild driving drew a comment from Sergio after the race as well.
Empezando en Fórmula 1, creo que trae demasiada presión, demasiado protagonismo que quiere mostrar. Fue lo mismo con Fernando la carrera pasada, fue lo mismo con Franco al final de la carrera. Creo que le tiene que bajar 2 o 3 rayas porque al final está peleando por un contrato y poder continuar el próximo año. Entonces creo que tiene que demostrar que puede ser capaz de controlar el temperamento.
Now here's a detail no one seems to be talking about. While Lawson's biggest issues on track have come with Perez, understandably given the seat he wants, the worst incidents have been with Alonso and Colapinto. All that's missing is Sainz, and Lawson would have had a full sweep of aggressive moves specifically against the Latin drivers on the grid. Coincidence? Or are we looking at something more serious, like a real issue with racism? Let's not forget, Doctor, Helmut Marko has already been criticised for racist comments toward Perez in the past. And during Checo's 4 years with the Bulls, not once was Marko publicly reprimanded. So, make of that what you will. Lawson's aggression wasn't normal. He drove like a man possessed, desperate to shove everyone out of his way. That kind of attitude doesn't just appear out of nowhere. Everything points to one man fueling it from behind the scenes, Helmut Marko. Since 2022, the Austrian advisor had been pushing for Sergio Perez to leave Red Bull. Why? Because Checo's presence was a constant reminder of the collapse of the very academy Marko oversees. Since 2013, Red Bull had relied solely on its junior driver program to feed talent into its F1 team, producing stars like Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen. But it also burned through drivers. Daniel Ricciardo, whose career was nearly ended, Alexander Albon dropped, Pierre Gasly dropped, Carlos Sainz, who escaped Red Bull by never actually making it past Toro Rosso, and Daniel Kvyat, another casualty. The few young talents still around, Yuki Tsunoda, Isaac Hadjar, and Liam Lawson, are barely holding on. So when Checo arrived, it wasn't part of a grand plan. It was a desperate move. Red Bull had no one left in the academy with enough experience or super license points to join Verstappen in the title fight. Checo's signing broke tradition and basically admitted the failure of Marko's system. But because of Marko's unchecked power, granted by the Mateschitz family, who own half the team, Christian Horner couldn't stop the constant mid-season driver swaps Marko was obsessed with. Marko kept promoting rookies from the junior team, Toro Rosso, then AlphaTauri, now Racing Bulls, before they were ready. These young drivers were thrown into the fire, expected to outperform their predecessors and keep up with the Verstappen juggernaut. It created a toxic cycle of pressure, where instead of enjoying racing, they were trapped in a losing battle to meet unrealistic expectations. Unsurprisingly, none of them could challenge Max. They were either demoted or discarded, then replaced by the next hope, who would suffer the same fate. That vicious cycle stopped with Perez. Red Bull brought in a veteran, not just to race, but to help develop the car. And surprise, surprise, Max won the championship right after. Suddenly, Marko had no argument left. Checo's presence exposed the truth. The academy was no longer producing elite-level drivers. That weakened Marko's position within Red Bull, especially with the junior team, now Racing Bulls, struggling financially due to lack of sponsors. Rumours of a potential sale have already started, since the team's only real purpose now is to serve as a talent incubator. And if there's no talent coming through, then what's the point? In short, Marko's entire job description is at risk. So the last thing he could afford was for Checo to keep exposing the cracks in his system. That's why he saw an opportunity in Liam, a chance to discredit Perez using his own heat-seeking missile named Lawson. Checo never had it easy, far from it. Many people dismissed his complaints about the car, labelling them as nothing more than excuses to justify what they saw as underperformance. After all, he was driving a championship winning machine. Few believed his argument that the car was designed entirely around Max's driving style, but that very issue, though rarely admitted, still affects Lawson today. To be fair, you could cut Liam some slack. He's stepping into Red Bull during a technical downturn, not just due to the looming departure of Adrian Newey, but also because many key figures, both in the factory and at the track, have already left. And let's not forget, Lawson isn't the kind of development driver Checo was. Perez understood the engineer's language, knew what to ask for and how to ask for it, especially when it came to car setup and fine-tuning. That kind of skill gave him a real edge, something Liam simply doesn't have yet. Some might say that makes it unfair to compare their debut performances. But let's remember, Checo joined Red Bull 4 years after Max. By then, the car had been moulded completely to fit Verstappen's style, and the entire technical and logistical infrastructure revolved around him. So no, the comparison is fair. As former driver, commentator, and F1 analyst Diego Mejia once said,
Siempre que me preguntaban sobre qué tan mal trabajo estaba haciendo Checo, yo decía, la única forma de saberlo es que coloquen a alguien más en ese coche.
Claro.
Lo han puesto
igual lo estamos viendo ahora.
y estamos viéndolo, exacto. O sea,
So now it's very likely that Liam is realising those driving styles he once thought were a myth are very real, and the reality check is hitting hard. Maybe he didn't have the skills to tame a Red Bull, and maybe he can't drive any car you put in front of him. After all, his attitude in the paddock has already changed. Gone is the cocky, almost mocking tone he carried last season.
Obviously, my goal is not to go out and make enemies of anybody. I'm not trying to cause any issues or anything like that, but at the same time, I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to win.
This is where we bring in a head-to-head comparison of both drivers' first two races, because truthfully, that's all Lawson's been allowed to show so far after such a disappointing performance. In his debut at the Australian Grand Prix, Lawson qualified 18th. Since he was starting so far back, the team used the opportunity to test a different setup, and he began the race from the pit lane. His F1 return would last just 47 laps before crashing the RB21 and retiring from the race. Checo's debut, by contrast, came at the Bahrain Grand Prix. He only qualified 11th, and the RB16B suffered a failure during the formation lap, but Perez managed to bring the car back to life, literally restarting it, and launched from the pit lane as well. He climbed an incredible 15 positions to finish P5. In Liam's second race, the Chinese Grand Prix, he qualified 19th for the sprint and managed to climb to 14th, still far from the points. For Sunday's race, he started once again from the pit lane after being eliminated in Q1 with a P20. He tried another comeback drive and finished 15th on track, later promoted to 12th due to other drivers being disqualified, but once again, no points. Meanwhile, Checo's second outing was at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. He qualified in P2. With a wet track and Max starting behind him in third, Checo eased off to let Verstappen go for the lead fight against Hamilton. That decision also allowed Leclerc to pass, dropping Perez to fourth. He held that position for most of the race, until a late off-track moment saw him finish 11th, just outside the points. Still, the pace and potential were there for everyone to see. For fans and viewers like you, just 2 races may already feel enough to compare, and that's without even getting into the 80 completed races Perez has done with Red Bull. Yes, we're counting only the races finished, no DNFs or retirements. So let's take a look at each driver's background before they even touched an RB car, both of them racing for what could be considered midfield teams. Liam Lawson competed in 11 Grands Prix across 2 seasons before being selected. His best results, 3 ninth-place finishes, earning a total of 6 points for his team. Sergio Perez, on the other hand, had 193 completed races under his belt. Before joining Red Bull, over 10 full seasons, he scored 706 points, made it to the podium 10 times, and even won a race, the 2020 Sakir Grand Prix, which ultimately earned him that Red Bull seat. The experience gap was massive, 10 full seasons versus what is basically half a season for Lawson, at a difference of 700 points, and you'd think that'd be enough for Liam to show a bit of restraint when dealing with veterans like Perez and Alonso. Even now, with both drivers having had a shot at the RB car, the difference remains staggering. Back when Checo complained about the car, no one believed him, but only he and Albon have openly described how difficult it is to drive that engineering masterpiece, tailor-made for Verstappen.
A lot of people say that car is built around him. Truthfully, the car is what it is. He is very quick. So what ends up happening is he has quite a unique driving style, actually. It's not that easy to get along with. But I like a car that has a good front end, so quite sharp, quite direct. Max does too, but his level of sharp and direct is kind of another, it's a whole different level. But if you bump up the sensitivity, it becomes so sharp that it makes you a little bit tense. And so what ended up happening was, as the season goes on, Max wants this front end in the car. He wants his car to be sharper.
And now, Lawson has joined the complaints, blaming the car for his nearly invisible performance. In other words, the old saying rings true, the one who talks big falls faster than the one who limps. Liam couldn't even get a handle on the RB21. It looked like he was afraid of the car's unpredictable behaviour, which forced him to drive cautiously through technical sections and make repeated mistakes in medium and high-speed corners. That led to an even worse performance than Bortoleto in Chinese GP qualifying. And it's not that Bortoleto is a bad driver. He's just a rookie with zero F1 experience, and he drives a Sauber. Behind the wheel of the RB21, Lawson seemed completely lost. He didn't know how much pressure to apply on the brakes, or he'd brake erratically, reacting to the sudden oversteer or rear-end instability. At one point he asked for front-end aero to be reduced, complaining that the nose was too loaded, but in practice, that adjustment caused a significant loss of front grip, leading to understeer.
Copy, I can't turn the car at all.
Yeah, copy that, mate.
I have no balance, absolutely none.
Yeah, copy that, mate. We'll take lessons from today.
Honestly, I tried everything.
Even though Liam said Suzuka was a track he did know, unlike the previous circuits he'd tackled in the RB 21, he's already burned his last card. Red Bull's top brass has wiped him off the radar. Ironically, the only good thing about Liam not understanding the car is that other drivers could finally race in peace, free from his usual hyper-aggressive antics. He spent more time just trying to stay on track than challenging anyone. Meanwhile, CHECO, despite constant criticism about performance from Marko and Horner, not to mention relentless media pressure, Verstappen family jabs, and some arguably racist comments from Marko, managed to score 932 points across 4 seasons with Red Bull. That's more than he collected in his entire previous 10-year F1 career. Perez finished in the points in 70 of the 80 races he completed with the Bulls. He stepped on the podium in 29 of those races and won 5 of them.
Oh, Checo is a legend.
Checo es una leyenda. Es increíble.
His first season ended with him 4th in the standings, and he steadily improved to finish as runner-up in 2023, surpassing even Ricciardo, whose best championship finish was 3rd.
Hasn't had the best of days. 14th in the sprint race, last today. Do we have a little Liam problem here?
Well, I mean, it's been a tough day in the office for him today, so we'll have a good look at it and go through it, and obviously try and give him the best car we can for tomorrow.
Well, yeah, but you didn't. You need him to score the constructors' points. You didn't pay off Checo for this, did you? I mean, the point was to replace Checo with a quicker driver. And is he just not a quicker driver?
As I say, we'll have a good look at it, and we'll do what we can tomorrow.
All right, well, good luck with it. Thanks for talking to us.
In nearly a decade of signing only junior drivers, Red Bull never came close to the kind of results they achieved with the veteran from Mexico. So even though Checo did struggle to handle Red Bull cars, he still delivered results. He had to adapt his naturally understeering driving style to match Verstappen's preference for oversteer. Despite all that, he hasn't just outperformed Lawson, he's outperformed every teammate Max has ever had. But where does that leave Lawson compared to the others? Albon scored 175 points in just a season and a half. His best results were 2 third-place podiums. In his first 2 races with Red Bull, he finished 5th and 6th. Gasly, on the other hand, scored points in 9 of his 12 races with Red Bull, with a best result of 4th place. Numbers that, at this point, seem totally out of reach for Liam, who is already being labelled as Max's worst teammate ever at Red Bull. And what about his record against the man who was his teammate at AlphaTauri Racing Bulls? Lawson entered Red Bull with 11 F1 races under his belt, while Tsunoda had already completed 75. In those 11 races, Yuki beat Liam in qualifying 10 times out of 11. In race results, Tsunoda led 4-3. That puts Lawson not only at the bottom of Red Bull's teammate history, it puts him among the worst rookie starts in Formula 1 on history. Not even Logan Sargent had it that bad. He finished P12 and P16 in his first 2 races. The only one in recent memory with a worse start is Nikita Mazepin, who retired in his debut and finished 17th in his second race. And remember, Liam had already raced 11 Grand Prix before this return. So now Lawson shares the infamous title of worst debut with a driver who lasted 1 full season at Haas, while Liam might only get 2 chances in the RB21, maybe 3, depending on what happens inside Milton Keynes. One rumour is a potential switch with Tsunoda. Yuki himself has said he's open to trying the RB21, but Checo, who has a great friendship with the Japanese driver, told Diego Mejia that he'd rather Yuki didn't move up.
En algún momento lo hablé con Checo y él me dijo, ojalá que no pongan a Yuki.
Wow.
Porque
se lo cargan.
O sea, él sabe. Checo sabe mejor. A ver, Checo cuando llegó a Red Bull llevaba 10 temporadas en la Fórmula 1. ¿Sí? Entonces, él sabía muy bien lo que estaba pasando internamente y qué estaba pasando con el coche. Y obvio, cuando los resultados se van sumando semana tras semana y no dan, pues hay un punto en el que la gente dice, el problema eres tú, no es el coche.
Qué fuerte.
Se entiende, ¿no? Pero pues con todo lo que está pasando estamos viendo que realmente en Red Bull hay un problema. Bueno, hay varios, ¿no? Porque ya no está Nubi. Ya no está Nubi para solucionar los problemas que están teniendo con este nuevo coche que al parecer no es mucho mejor que el del año pasado, ¿no? Y a ver, cuando tú ves a Hadjar que se queda 2 décimas de Verstappen, con todo el respeto que me merece Hadjar, es un gran piloto, rapidísimo, pero que en su segunda carrera en la Fórmula 1 en clasificación se haya quedado a 2 décimas prácticamente de Verstappen.
Total.
Yo creo que eso te dice algo también.
Total.
Why? Because Checo believes Tsunoda shouldn't burn himself out like so many others already have. It might be better for him to finish strong at Racing Bulls and look for a better opportunity when the driver market opens during silly season. There's already heavy speculation around what many call the hottest seat in F1, whether it'll go to Tsunoda, Colapinto, or maybe even a triumphant return from Checo himself. But let's be honest, Colapinto will never be loaned to Red Bull. Alpine went through countless behind-the-scenes manoeuvres just to secure his services. As for Checo, he would never return to Red Bull after the way he was treated. It's better to wait and see where the ongoing talks with Cadillac lead, because by now it's no secret that both parties have started negotiations. Hajar, still way too raw. And once again, Mr. Marco's academy has zero competent backups ready to step in. The only one who's even remotely close and gutsy enough to take that seat is Tsunoda. But let's be honest, that seat now reeks of toxicity. And the stench keeps getting worse, fueled by the testimonies of those who have sat in it before. No one's willing to jump into that untamable beast without some guarantee of technical support. No one doubts Verstappen's talent, but his role at Red Bull, under Marco's terms, combined with the increasing influence of the Verstappen family, especially his father, and the weak-neutered leadership of Christian Horner, has made the once mighty team start to wobble. Red Bull are masters at pointing fingers, but they still won't remove the rotting apple at the centre of the basket. Austrian advisor Helmut Marko. He's left the team with no ammo in the chamber, and now that we can all clearly see what's really going on behind the scenes, it's time to sit back, grab the popcorn, and enjoy the show. Because the fireworks are about to start. We're about to watch the spectacular implosion of a team that could have been far greater than it is, but it chose instead to burn through its most valuable assets. Marco still has plenty of gunpowder, but Liam couldn't even spark a flame.